Welcome to the What's Already podcast, where we fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host Mattson.
Yeah, better red than dead.
And Alec Burgess.
Yeah, let's get it.
We appreciate you tuning in. As always, go ahead and hit that follow, subscribe, like, bell notification buttons. Hit them all. They help us grow the podcast. Tell your friends about us. Tell your enemies about us. Tell your family about us. Tell everyone about us. Strangers on the street.
We are a family-friendly podcast here.
Don't tell Michael Myers
Not so
about
much.
us, please.
Yeah. Hey, you can leave that shit out. With that, we are here to talk about the movie Halloween Ends. It was released October 14th, 2022. It was written by Paul Brad Logan. It was directed by David Gordon Green. I love a movie about a serial killer that's written and directed by three named peoples. And stars a three-named person: Jamie Lee Curtis, Andy Matichak, Jude Courtney, Rohan Campbell, Will Patton, Jesse Boyd, Michael Barberi, Destiny Moan, Martine, and Joey Harris. The saga of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode comes to a spine-chilling climax in the final installment of this trilogy. I feel like that was a very generous synopsis.
Spine-chilling?
Yeah, I feel like
someone used the
generous.
thesaurus for that one.
Yeah.
Can we just get this out of the way? The physics of this first death, like, what is going on here? You get locked, and he's kicking it, hits the kid with the door knob in the face, somehow has enough force to knock him over the railing, and falls down and dies. Like, I was just unimpressed. Thoroughly unimpressed.
Yeah, I think the angle was wrong. I think if the door was lined up directly in front of the banister, I'd have been more okay with it.
Maybe. Is the kid even that tall to get knocked over the banister?
I mean, I obviously he was.
It turned me off. Like that. It started with that. I was just like, yeah, okay.
I mean, there were worse unrealistic deaths in the show.
Oh, sure. But it just started with that. I knew immediately we were going downhill.
And I mean, there was a girl who was run over with a friggin' tow truck stuck in a fence, and she was still breathing for a very long time. I was like, weird.
Good genetics right there. Is what
Yeah.
She had to be alive to say, what did she say? Like,
you're going to die. Or
you're going to
dead.
die. And
Yeah.
like, say it so calmly. I was like, oh, glad that your voice box is still working.
Yeah. It was. Look, I didn't expect this movie to be good. We watched it because it's October and it's Halloween, and
You expected
Charles
to see
voted for
Michael
it.
Myers, though, not this stupid Corey jerk.
Yeah, I don't understand what they were trying to do. And this again is what happens when you get away from having good writers. Right. Part of the reason that I know you guys didn't do this, but I watched Halloween Kills right before I watched this because I'd never
we're not
seen
insane.
it. Well, yeah, but I'd never seen it. I saw the Halloween, the one where John Carpenter came back, and I was curious if how it would go. But you can tell the writing on. I mean, it's a third one. They're like, we're gonna do another money grab because it was just bad. It was just bad. But again, I knew it was gonna be bad.
I was a bit of a conundrum or an impasse with this film, JJ, because I'm the resident coward of the podcast, right?
That's fair.
And we've watched two scary movies so far, both of which haven't scared me at all. I feel like I'm coming to this precipice of danger where if I go a little bit farther, JJ's just going to keep pushing me to watch scarier stuff. And then next thing you know, I'm going to be stuck in a sewer with Michael Myers or Pennywise, wondering how the fuck I got here.
Don't worry. I already have a feeling that myself and Charles are going to ruin your November.
Oh, gosh.
Because
calling out sick whole month.
Wait, I got to watch another horror movie?
Dude, I'm putting it in a list.
I'm freaking downvoting that hard.
You don't get a vote. You're not a Patreon.
Oh, I can vote before it gets to Charles?
That's the beauty of being me.
No, this was not a scary movie at all. Like, even the deaths, it wasn't even over the top gruesome. Like, it was actually pretty, like, low key in because I've seen some of these other ones before. The only one I was like, whoa, that's a way to die, is when he freaking took the welding tool and burned the dude's face. Like
right in his mouth.
Even the DJ one, I was like, I've kind of seen that before, where he cut the tongue off and let it spin. But the welding one, I was like, oh, man, that's the way to go right there.
Yeah, well, and I'm kind of pissed because, like, I thought seriously when he ran her over with the fence and the truck, like, I thought we were gonna see like the chain link with like parts of her sticking through like, I was like, she's toast. And then she's laying under there screaming, and I get she needed to be the distraction, but I was like, that's lame. Like, she's not alive. Like, there's no way. Like, he hit her full on, and then you watch her get run over with both front and back tires.
I thought when Corey went in there, he got dragged in, he had face-to-face with Myers, that he had like Michael Myers was transferring his powers into him, and that's where I thought we were going. But then obviously it wasn't that way, and we had like a low-powered Michael Myers basically because he was older. But then it's like, this dude doesn't die, so why? So he just all of a sudden lost his abilities. It got confusing, and then Corey started doing all this on his own. I was like, where's this coming from? How did this even happen? And I just started to get confused about, well, is this a Michael Myers film, or is this just some dude going insane and trying to be like a mini Michael Myers? I didn't really get it.
It felt like you had two storylines that were being written, and they started off with this whole like, well, let's have the soul of Michael Myers or the anger or the whatever of Michael Myers transfer to this kid. And then they were like, they bailed on it halfway through, and we're just going to make him a little nuts.
Like, what was up with the team kill with the nurse and the doctor? Like, what was that?
Don't know.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene was, but why was Michael Myers there too?
Showing the kid the ropes. This is how you don't screw up.
Yeah.
I guess. And geez, flirt to promote. Why did
that works?
Hey, I would have promoted her. I'm just saying. That was a fiery redhead right there. She's dumb as a box of rocks, but she was. Yeah. That's true ginger power right there.
Yeah, I just the whole time I didn't get it. Like, I got why he maybe wanted to kill the kids. Like, okay, like I could get that, but where did his motivation to all of a sudden start killing people?
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I really feel like watching it, they started going, well, this is going to be our new Michael Myers, and we're going to transfer, and then they just didn't. Like, I think they went, nah, this is too hokey, or we don't like this. Someone came in and said no. And then
you think so?
Yeah, I really do. Like, that to me, like, it screams we have a plan, but that's been done before. You know what I mean? Like, this wouldn't have been the first time that we say, okay, like, that's like the whole premise of fucking Chucky, right? Like, is the soul gets passed to the Chucky doll, and then to some kids, and then, so I mean, it's like we've seen that shit before. So it wasn't something that I'm sure they went, no, we don't want to be that. Let's just use Michael Myers' influence as something that brings out that darkness that's in there because of what happened. But it was just clunky, because the problem is, and this is the problem with almost all horror movies, especially, is that when you go to watch a horror movie, there's an expectation of jump scares, gore, murder, mayhem. And it's hard to write a good, interesting,
JJ, let me pause
story.
you there. And poor decisions. Please throw that in there.
Well, of course. I mean, that's just human nature, is poor decisions. But
I don't make any poor decisions when it comes to scary shit.
Well, that's fair. But it's like, it's hard to inject a quality storyline or intriguing dialogue into horror movies. Finding that balance is difficult. That's why, to me, a lot of these horror television shows that are coming out on Netflix and play on a Hulu, places like that, starting with American Horror Story. Like they really triggered, we can do a lot with horror if we have more time, because we can still inject all of those things that people go to horror for, and yet still have a good storyline and interesting acting, good acting, and we can hire big names, things like that. So like to me, and I've mentioned this before on the podcast too, like the Haunting of Hill House, that's some of the best cinema, television, whatever you want to call it, I've ever seen still to this day, especially in horror. But it's not just because it's horror, it's because the characters are interesting, the story is interesting. But you can't, it's hard to do that with a horror movie, especially one like Michael Myers, where everything's so unbelievable as it is, that you have this dude that's just walking around and here's the other thing. So you guys didn't see this, but in Halloween Kills, like there's this line where it talks about the reason Michael Myers doesn't die is because of the fear that he's created in this town makes him thrive. And I'm like, so what's he, a living Freddy Krueger now? Like, I'm like, Jesus. So now he's this cross. Michael Myers, who was the original slasher, has now become a cross between the two slashers that he spawned, Jason and Freddy.
Yeah, because that's Freddy's thing.
Yeah, that's Freddy's thing, is that the fear is what he feeds on and what keeps him around. And Jason's this lumbering fucking tank that just kills everybody slowly by walking slowly until they do something dumb. So it was just like, and Michael Myers was creepy as shit because he's just this psycho that breaks out.
Oh, like the original's solid.
So good. Because it's not even like over the top violent. It's just like he's constantly there behind the bushes, and then all of a sudden he's
like, we didn't even get any good Michael Myers stare downs or like none of that really. I was like, man, you didn't even give me that. Like, we didn't even get that.
Yeah. No, you got that one weird one from Corey staring from behind the bushes, doing the quintessential Michael Myers half behind the bush looking at Laurie, and I'm like, that's not as effective because I'm not looking at.
And then where'd he go? How did he
match?
How do you get behind here? Like, where? Oh, I'm waiting for your daughter. Like, whatever, shapeshifter mother effer. Like, that's Michael Myers shiz. You're just a normal dude.
It was just a jump scare. They were trying to get Alec there.
Stupid.
Didn't work because I was still questioning, when did band geeks become the bullies of the world? I was yanked out of this movie that very instant, and I spent the entirety remaining of this film contemplating how the strong, silent wrestler or offensive lineman that is typically the bad guy is just, fiddling around with his drumsticks.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm not buying it. This dude who's, weighs 135 pounds soaking wet is in any way, shape, or form intimidating Corey Cunningham. Not buying it.
Dude, I had the same exact thought. Look, I played football, I played baseball, I played basketball, I played all the sports. I was also a band geek. None of my band geek friends were these people. Not even. They were the other side of this deal. Like, they're the people that survive shit like this. Because they learn real quick. Run. You know what I mean? Like, this doesn't end well for people like
I don't see the band geeks spending time at the junkyard in the middle of the night.
No, that's
because the physics in this show is messed up. They push him and he goes off. I'm like, dude, the dude is like almost twice his size.
Yeah. He didn't push him. He fucking hucked him off.
Well, yeah, like, but I'm like, that's not happening.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. When it was the band geeks, I was like, no.
Yeah. So I was pulled out immediately, and then I spent the entire movie trying to figure out what their goal was with this.
We also didn't talk about the ridiculous dance scene. Like, what was that? I don't know what that was. It made white people look real bad at dancing is what it made me think of. I'm like, man,
we are, but
you knock a couple drinks back and then you just start convulsing on the floor, apparently. They're like, I don't know what was going on there. I was confused.
He was letting loose. Cut loose.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing she thought he was attractive, because that shiz would have been a turnoff for many people.
It's a small town. There's not a lot of options.
still, there's got to be better ones than that. Like, it's, yeah, this movie was a mess. Like, and you can tell because it was a year ago, or I think it was just only a year ago that the other one came out, that Halloween Kills came out. And so you can tell that it's like, oh shit, hurry up. This actually made some money and did decently well for what it was. Let's do it. Because the original, when they redid Halloween and brought in Jamie Lee Curtis, and it was actually decent because John Carpenter was directly involved. And so it made good money. And then this shit happened, and I don't fucking get it. But there's a reason that it's on Peacock at the same time that it releases in the theater.
Because they knew it was garbage.
Yeah, I mean, they're just trying to bolster money.
They didn't do anything right in this. They didn't get good killing scenes. It clearly didn't make any sense. They didn't show me enough Michael freaking Myers. Like, he was barely in it.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing that bothered me too about this whole trilogy, at least the last two, when I watched Halloween Kills and this one, like, Michael Myers has always been this like physically intimidating specimen. And I'm like, stop taking his mask off, because he just looks like an old man with leprosy on his forehead. Like, I just can't deal with how he looks. Like, even the ones that Rob Zombie made, which were terrible movies, he got Tyler Mane to play Michael Myers. So there's just this monstrous human being chasing down other much smaller human beings. So it had that intimidation and holy shit factor. This one, I'm like, every time they take his mask off, I'm like, dude, his beard's like weird and patchy. Like,
he looks like Sloth from the Goonies.
Yeah.
The fact that he got beat by like a 60-year-old lady, 65-year-old lady, you're like,
at least
you can't go down like that.
Yeah. It was a weird one.
And then she puts the knives in him, the refrigerator, and he still can take his arm out of that and grab it. I'm like, well, if he's got the strength to do, like, I don't know, you just pick and choose when he's weak then.
Well, and I was laughing too, because she sticks the first one through his hand, and I'm like, he just threw her around his house like a rag doll. If he can't pull that knife out of that table that she slammed through his hand and the freaking cutting board countertop, come on. What the hell happened to this dude? And a fridge? Like, that fridge wasn't that heavy.
Michael Myers benches like 3,000 pounds. Like, deadlifts like 5,000. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Well, for that, I mean, we've talked about this the last couple weeks with She-Hulk, is they didn't earn the moment of him ripping his hand through the knife, because there's no build up to show that he was even capable of that. Like, we see him get his ass handed to him by Corey Cunningham in the sewer when he steals his mask. We have all these moments that show that he's an old man, like he's not getting around anymore, so they don't earn this kind of gotcha moment when he's able to get up off the table.
Yeah, unless you've seen the previous movie. Halloween Kills is like by far the better slaughter movie. Like, there's like half the town gets murdered in Halloween Kills.
Yeah, some of like the stuff they showed in like the flashbacks, I was like, man, I need to watch that one.
Dude, I'm telling you, there's some brutal fucking deaths in that one. This dude in a car gets a knife like through his eye socket, and it goes up here and out the top of his head. And then he just kind of lays down with the knife handle sticking out of his eyeball. I'm like, oh fuck! And then this one chick gets smacked and she shoots herself through the chin. Like, there's some brutal kills in Halloween Kills. They didn't
get anything right. There wasn't anything.
Yeah, this one was not. It was tame.
But we still haven't even. No one's done a good even a halfway good theory about what the hell they were trying to do with Corey and Michael Myers, except that they were going to, and then how does that? If that is the case, like, I just don't know how you can even let that happen. You just know you made a garbage movie. You scrap it halfway through and try to bring them back.
Well, and that's what happens with movies like this. They only have a certain amount of budget, so they make this film and they're going, and then they're watching the dailies going, "This sucks balls. We need to not do it this way." And so then they have to change it in the middle because it costs too much money to go back and reshoot everything that you've shot. So you just have this weird fucking transition from one story line thought to another, and the transition sucks but they're not going to go back and spend money because they already know they're probably going to lose money on this. It's just, how do we lose the least amount of money or maybe make a little bit?
Plot twist, Corey Cunningham was supposed to be Michael Myers' kid.
It would have been better.
Shit, you can get away with stuff like that.
They've got the initials down perfectly. Corey Cunningham, CC.
Yeah.
Michael Myers.
I wouldn't have minded, it would have been dumb. I wouldn't have minded. That's what you do in horror stuff like this. But there was no connection. Yeah. If they had leaned into his stuff transferred and he started to become Michael Myers and they were going to reincarnate the series through that, I'd be like, all right, it's their money grab, but at least it made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm wondering if maybe they started out thinking we'll reboot the series with this, and somebody went, nah, we're not going to do that. And so then they changed gears to Halloween Ends.
Which I'm also fine with, because I'm like, look, if you really finally put this puppy to bed, let it go to bed.
They won't. Somebody will fucking reboot it.
When's the last time they made a Freddy Krueger movie? Has it been a while?
It's been a while. They tried doing it in 2009, I think. They rebooted it and the actor, I was surprised it was as bad as it was. Because the actor that they got was the guy that played Rorschach in the Watchmen movie. And he's creepy as shit. And I thought he was going to kill it, but the movie wasn't that great.
I think I've seen that one, and it wasn't very good.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. But these movies were never meant to be. This is another one of those things where they made money in the 70s, 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and early 90s because it was new and it was daring and it was violent, and they hadn't horror movies weren't that way before the original Halloween. Most horror movies, especially mainstream horror movies, were more like Psycho, where they left a lot to your imagination, which I appreciate in horror movies. Like Psycho is one of the creepiest, most frightening movies out there, in my opinion, because you don't actually see a lot of murder and you don't know. You're just like, this is fucking creepy.
Should watch that. We should do that.
We should. It's a great movie. But
wait, Alex nodding his head. You've seen it?
Yeah, I've seen Psycho.
Psycho's an amazing movie. Hitchcock's amazing.
Past that.
Love Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, it's a Hitchcock. Yeah. I didn't know that. I'll pass most of those. Pass. Is it in black and white?
Yeah.
F you, JJ. You didn't even save me from saying yes to that piece. What kind of friend are you?
I heard a yes, JJ.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, freaking Alex is gonna nod his head. I'm gonna forget I said that and wash my mouth out with soap.
That's why Hitchcock's the king of horror.
Yeah,
he's not.
He is.
Oh, he is.
I know he is. I've seen. He is good at it
because he leaves your mind to work against you.
You make it scary.
I will take that back. Hitchcock knows what he's doing.
Yeah, Hitchcock.
Too late. It's going on TikTok.
Hitchcock's the man. But so when these were coming out, it was different. Like you were seeing violence, you were seeing slasher. It was a new thing, and so it became popular, and it was creepy. I remember growing up, like you'd hear Freddy Krueger's voice. I mean, Will Smith made a fucking song about Freddy Krueger, so it was that popular in that time. The problem is we live in an age where it's kind of going back the other direction, to where we don't care about the shock and awe as much as we do a little bit of shock and awe riddled in with good storytelling, good acting, good writing.
Well, yeah, because we're so desensitized. Like I've seen a million knife plunges with too much blood. Like that's a common Tuesday.
Well, and for most of us, jump scares don't have the same effect. Like we understand the nuance and the chemistry of a jump scare. I can call most jump scares coming from a mile away because I'm a student of horror. I love horror movies. And so most jump scares, I'm like, they don't get me anymore. Right. And so jump scares alone don't work. You have to psychologically fuck with people again in order for horror to be effective. That's why something like The Haunting of Hill House works so well, is because there's jump scares. It's got and Mattson has seen the jump scare I'm talking about. It is one of the greatest jump scares, if not the greatest jump scare I've ever seen in my life, because I almost peed myself. Like the first time I watched it, I shouted at this. I fuck? Like, it scared me to be verbal and move away from my TV screen. It made Javier almost jump through my ceiling, literally 3 times. He's watched it 3 times. He knows what the fuck is coming, and he still jumps through my ceiling. And it's one of the greatest. But the reason it was one of the greatest is because they set you up psychologically for 9 episodes to not be prepared for this jump scare. So it's one of those things where horror is changing. And by recreating or redoing or revisiting these films, you're going back to a time where you're trying to reproduce something that doesn't work anymore, in my opinion. At least not for the masses. We go see
Alec
it for nostalgia.
will not be changing with the times.
No, so my problem is I can tell when a jump scare is coming, but I have shit timing. So I'm waiting for I'm like, there it is. And then it hits me.
That was like Javier when we did Scream, when I made him do Scream. That's why he was so mad, because there was one where like the anticipation of the jump scare was so bad that he relaxed like 6 times before it actually happened. And he just kept getting all. You should have seen him, Alec, in the theater. I was sitting next to him, and he's wrapped up in his hoodie, like watching the movie through his fingers. Oh, it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then he stopped watching horror with me after that.
The scariest I've ever been, though, was when I went and saw Signs in theaters. I was like 12 or 11. In that scene where they pause on the alien coming out of like the cornfield, when they're showing like it on television or whatever down like Mexico or somewhere in South America. Man, to this day, like I remember being frozen in my seat at the movie theater, and just that image stayed. I couldn't go to bed that night. The next day, being like I had all the lights on at night, even when they turned off, and it's not even like that scary, but man, that like hit me so hard.
Yeah. I think the most scared I've ever been in a movie was when I was a kid and my asshole cousin Robbie made me watch the Amityville Horror, the original one, not with Ryan Reynolds, but I'm talking the I think it was like 82 or something. I think I was like 8 years old, and it was awful. Like, oh my God, awful. And that one hurt me, like even to the point where I went and saw the Ryan Reynolds version as an adult. And there was parts of it where I was like, I can't.
Like, I can't go back to my 8-year-old self.
Yeah, because it literally like it had done some damage when I was a kid. So it was that one hurt me a lot as a kid. And then of course the Exorcist, oof, that one was rough as a kid too.
The most creeped out I've been when I was older. I was 16 or 17. The Hills Have Eyes. Oof. That's one of the. There's 2 movies that I regret watching in my life. Bruno's one of them. Seen that in theaters. I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is not good. And then The Hills Have Eyes. My friend and I we watch a lot of horror movies during freshman and sophomore year, but that one still, like, you couldn't. I definitely wouldn't watch it again for $100 right now to fully sit down and do that. I wouldn't do it. Maybe maybe 500, maybe, but I felt very uncomfortable. Just very uncomfortable watching that movie.
Yeah. Another one that got me was The Ring, the original The Ring, when it came out in the States. Just because it was so different. Like, that was the first of the Korean horror, and Korean horror is like disturbing. And so when they translated it over it was kind of like that, like what you're talking about, Mattson, was just uncomfortable because like there's that constant resonance sound that's going on in that movie. The color scheme with that weird blue backlighting that was on, and just the girl crawling out of the goddamn TV screen with her hair over her face. Like,
yep. Yeah, Alec, have you seen The Ring?
No.
Yeah, I don't think Alec. That would.
That one hurts. No. I remember seeing it in theater. I was with a girl named Aubrey, good friend of mine. We'd gone to like a nightclub on Halloween, and we got done. It was like late, and this is way back when you could go to like late movies. They'd start at like 11 o'clock. We got out of the nightclub, and I was like half in the bag, and she's like, "Do you want to go watch a movie?" I'm like, "Sure, let's go." So we go watch The Ring, and I'm like mid row. There's like 4 people in the theater because it's so late, and it's Halloween night, and I'm a little drunk, and I'm sitting in the middle row, and there's a scene at the end where this girl comes crawling out of this fucking well on this TV. and then she's crawling towards it, and then like it'll like skip, it'll like do like a little VHS like, and then she's like right up against the fucking screen. Then her hair comes out of the TV screen, and she's like crawling on all fours at this fucked up angle. And in the theater, it's so fucking big, and they zoom in on the TV that the movie theater screen looked like the TV screen, and it almost looked like she was coming out of it. And I remember, just because I'm half drunk and I was like leaning as far back in my movie theater seat as I could. I was uncomfortable. That was a creepy one.
Alec, have you considered staring at a mirror and what is it, reciting Bloody Murder 3 times or whatever?
Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary.
And no. And it's one of the rules in my relationship with Oshi, which if she ever does it, we're done.
I love that.
Have you done that, JJ? I've never done it.
Oh yeah, I've done it. We used to do it, but I've been ghost hunting. Like I've been to like some of the most haunted places in the country and spent the night there and investigate. Like I love that shit. Like I think that's the greatest shit ever.
JJ, if I can ever get you to go to Virginia, I don't like doing that stuff per se, but there is a place in Clifton, Virginia. It's called Bunnyman's Bridge, and you should look up the story.
Okay.
Definitely, if it's not the most haunted place in Virginia, it's absolutely in the top 3, without a doubt. But it's hard to, we don't need to soak up the whole podcast with it, but it's in like Backroads, Virginia, there's a lot of these tunnels that are like 1-lane tunnels that like you can only fit 1 car through. And the bunny man apparently broke out of this sane asylum that's like 15 minutes from this bridge, and they started to find a lot of mutilated bunnies in the area, but then they were starting to find people that were like their chests were open, and some of these people were strung from this bridge. Long story short, they thought they caught him, but then it happened again a couple of years later. And so I've been there a couple of times, but like that's a place where I can definitely feel that I'm not supposed to like be there. It's one of, and you probably have had way more experiences where you could just feel, well, I don't even like evil or like apprehension. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but you definitely don't feel good at times being there.
Yeah. You know that there's something wrong with where you're at. And I've been there quite a few times. Okay, Alec, you can come back, buddy. Much to Alec's chagrin, I have just figured out what my next dumb episode is going to be, though.
Great.
We're gonna talk about that shit.
Yeah, I want to hear more about it, but
because I got great stories, and so I'll have to dig out my tape recorders and so you guys can hear some of the stuff.
But coming back to the movie, long story short, did not scare me. Didn't really, honestly, to me, really feel like a slasher or a horror movie in a sense. It felt like a relic of something that it once was, and they got confused and didn't know how to tie it together or end it, and it was just not good. Yeah,
agreed. Yeah, I was okay straying away from the movie because it's so bad. Like, I'd rather talk about other things. But, yeah, are we ready to rate this turd?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm probably going to score this higher than you think just because there is some nostalgia for me. Like, I grew up watching slasher 80s, 90s horror movies. Like, this is my childhood, right? So, no matter how I love horror, like, and much to Alec and poor Javier, I forced these guys to watch this shit, and because I love it. Like, it is my thing. I enjoy horror. I enjoy being scared. I enjoy being uncomfortable. Like, I like those things. So this is what I grew up watching, is this kind of thing. So there is a level of nostalgia there for me that probably isn't there for the two of you, obviously. So it was a bad movie. It was badly written. You can tell. To me, I still will stick with the fact that they changed the direction they were going mid-movie because they realized this is going to be worse than it could be if we changed it up. So I just don't think – I think it was a money grab. Maybe it's because Jamie Lee Curtis produced all these. Maybe that's her way of getting some money in her pocket. I don't know. They shouldn't have made them. They need to leave Michael Myers alone. Let Halloween go. Just release on Halloween the original one in theaters every once in a while, or make it easy to stream. That's plenty because the original's great. But this one, it was bad. It was dumb. It was a waste. It wasn't even a good follow-up to the one previous to it. So it was just out of nowhere with some of the same actors. That's really all it was. I'm going to give it a 1 again, just because of my nostalgia factor. Don't watch this movie. If you want to watch horror movie, there's so many other better ones, including the original Halloween. Steer clear of this one. So, Alec, what about you?
Yeah. So I actually enjoyed watching this movie because I wasn't focused on the horror aspect or the slasher aspect. I was focused on why are the band geeks the bad guys? And that kept popping up, or I was almost like enjoying making fun of this movie. And I watched it with Ocean, watched with her brother, and they are both big Michael Myers Halloween fans. So they were kind of getting in on it. So the overall watching experience was pretty enjoyable just because of the environment. But the movie sucked.
Yeah.
Like, I am the easiest person to scare. It takes very, very little to freak me out and make sure I don't sleep for a week. The fact that you cannot do that, given one of the best, if not the best, slasher villains out there, Michael Myers, who, no matter where you go, he's always there, type of a thing. If you can't get me to be scared or concerned in a movie, you have failed badly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a 0.5. Just wasn't good. Like, do better.
Yeah. I almost did that myself, so I'm with you. All right. Mattson, make sure you unmute yourself first.
Sorry. It's kind of like Michael Myers in this movie, just not showing up.
Yeah.
This is it. You already know what I'm going to say. It's an easy 0.5. I can't give it a 0 because it's still way better than some things. But it was bad. There's not even much to say. I've already said it. I didn't get my biggest qualm is I want to see more Michael Myers. Like, what? Sure. Just give me the dude. Like, let me see him do his thing. And I don't want to see a weakened. Like, even when I did see him, it was like he's like 90 years old and brittle and like just get a pushover. He can't even lift a fridge. Can't even get his hand out of a knife. But then he can. But then he can't. It was. I don't know. They want him to be more powerful than not, and like I didn't get to see him enough. I didn't care for this Corey character at all. Like, what are we trying to do here? It was confusing, disappointing. If this is it, this is a bad way to go. And just watch the original. It's very good. I don't even like horror movies. That's a great movie. Good movie. Like, this was just terrible. So 0.5. We'll never watch this again. Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's shame on Peacock. Yeah, there it is. Another Halloween film in the books. Well, now I'm looking forward to JJ's dumb shit for the next one. I haven't talked about that stuff in a while. Yeah, but there it is. Don't watch this movie. Go watch something else. Alec, tell everybody where they can find us, my friend.
All right, you boys already get kicked off the internet?
Oh, shit.
Thank you for tuning in to our show, the hottest mess west of the Yucatan Peninsula. We are the What's Our Verdict podcast. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Thunderdome. We are not responsible for any future therapy sessions you may need after listening to us. If you are a returning listener, let us know why you keep coming back, you crazies. If you guys breathe air, make sure you subscribe to the channel where we guarantee to take your breath away in more ways than one. We would like to give a special thank you and shout out to JJ Screaming Goats, our wonderful patron. You, sir, are a pirate and a good man, and we appreciate your support of the channel. Tune in every Monday morning for a new movie release at 8 a.m.
Pacific.
So tune in wherever you get your podcasts. As always, you can reach out to us at hosts@whatsourverdict.com to let us know your verdict on our episode.
Yeah. Thanks, Alec. Cool. Well, that was fun. And as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cinemagic out.